Hey everyone, Justin Conroy, Financial Dad here, and in this video I want to talk through and answer the question, what is the difference between savings and emergency funds? Because when it comes to knowing when you should use your emergency fund and when you shouldn't, there's a lot of interpretations out there that can really confuse things. And I believe that it's incredibly important to understand the difference between savings and emergency funds, because if you don't know when to use one versus the other, you may find yourself in a bad situation without the emergency funds to support it. So by the end of this video, you'll know the difference between savings and emergency funds and the purpose of each, and I'll also give you a good set of criteria for helping decisions around when to use your emergency fund. So with that, do me a big favor and smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Let's go ahead and get this started. So let's start off by answering the question, what is the difference between normal savings account money and emergency fund money? Now, let's start with savings. I believe savings can be broken down into three major categories. First, we have long lead, essential, cyclical expenses. Long lead because they're usually pretty far off, 3 months, 6 months, maybe even a year. They're essential because you must pay them no matter what. And they're cyclical because they happen every so often, every 3 months, every 6 months, every year. I'm talking about things like property taxes, HOA fees, homeowners insurance, car insurance, and maybe even income taxes. This is your first major category of savings expenses. The second one is going to be the large, essential purchases. I'm not talking about the Lamborghinis or the fun stuff. I'm talking about the large, essential purchases like your home down payment, maybe a normal commuter car that you need to get back and forth to work, and your furniture. Okay, these are things that are essential, that you need, and they're also large enough that you can't really cash flow them on a normal basis. Finally, we have our third category of savings expenses, and these are our large, non-essential purchases. This is your fun stuff. This is the stuff like birthday gifts, maybe holiday gifts, travel for you and your family, your vacations, and maybe even some of those new toys that you really want to buy to have fun with. Because hey, you're making money, you may as well spend it to have fun with it. Now you'll notice in all three of my savings categories that I never mentioned anything about any of those big bad expenses that people typically use emergency funds for, which we'll get to in just a second. We're really talking about the large things that you can't normally cash flow. In at least two of the cases, they're essential purchases. Sometimes they're cyclical. And again, it's the fun stuff as well. These are the things that you need to save up for because they're large enough you can't cash flow, but they are things that are, for the most part, not really part of your unexpected events. You know you're going to be getting your property tax bill. You know you're going to be getting your car insurance bills. You know you're going to be needing a home down payment at some point. And you know you're going to want to have fun at some point. So that's really the point of savings. And that's the real distinction of savings versus emergency funds. Savings are planned expenses, which brings us to our emergencies. So moving on to your emergency fund. How do we know the difference between savings funds and emergency funds? How do we know when we should use one versus the other? Now at this point in the video, I could give you a long list of all the different types of emergencies that you may encounter in your life. I mean, I'm talking about the medical emergencies, maybe your car broke down, your refrigerator broke, maybe you lost your job. There's a million different things that could happen in life that would constitute as an emergency. But giving a list like that isn't really productive. I think it's better to actually think about things in terms of criteria. Now there's two methods of criteria that I want to run you through. First is Mr. Dave Ramsey's criteria for emergency funds. He talks about this on his website, but basically he has three questions. He says, you need to be able to ask yourself, is this situation that you're trying to pay for unexpected? That's number one. Is it necessary? That's number two. And is it urgent? That's number three. Now, basically, if you can fit all three of those criteria, it's probably a good situation to use your emergency fund in. If it's completely unexpected, maybe you lost your job. Is it completely necessary? You lost your job, so you need to buy groceries. You have to live. That's necessary. Is it urgent? You're hungry. Yes, you need to go buy your groceries so you can eat. That would absolutely fit the criteria, for example. Okay, so is it unexpected, is it necessary, and is it urgent? I think that's a great set of criteria to use. But I do want to give you my own criteria. Not to take anything away from his, I actually think his criteria is really good. And in most cases, if his criteria tells you you should use your emergency fund, mine would probably tell you the same. But it's just a slightly different way of thinking about things. So for me, my first question is, whatever the situation you're dealing with is it a matter of you or your family's health? Because if it is, you should definitely definitely consider using your emergency fund. Your health and your family's health is #1 priority. You want to make sure that everyone is happy and safe and survives. And so if something is impacting you or your family's health, you need to do something about that. That is an emergency. Number 2, the question is simply this: is it a matter of your income? Now, what I mean by that is it affecting your income somehow? So let's take, for example, the job loss situation. Did you recently lose your job? Then if the answer is yes, you should probably dip into your emergency fund if you need to. There's nothing wrong with that. Your income is being affected. Let's look at another situation. If your car breaks down and you have to have your car to get to work so that you can generate income, then it is a matter of your income. You need to get that car fixed so that you can go make more money. It's a matter of your income. Dip into your emergency fund, fix your car. In order to solidify this in your head a little bit more, let's run through a few common situations in which people might consider using an emergency fund and apply my criteria to it. First, let's assume that your best friend from college is getting married at some destination wedding, some destination awesome location, and you really want to go to that wedding and have a good time and experience the whole event with them. But you don't have the money. But you do have your emergency fund. Should you use it? Is that an emergency fund? I mean, it is your best friend. Well, let's use the criteria. Is it a matter of you or your family's health? Well, in this case, no. The answer is no. You or your family are not going to suffer. Your life isn't going to be at risk because you didn't go to your friend's wedding. Okay, so no, the answer is no. Doesn't fit the criteria, at least for this one. Is it a matter of your income? Actually, it kind of is in this case. There is a chance, depending on whether or not you're taking vacation days, for example, you might actually lose money by going to this destination wedding. So it's not really a matter of your income, and if it is, you might actually lose money. So again, the answer is no. This is not an emergency. Your friend's wedding is not an emergency. Don't use it. All right, let's look at another example. Let's make this one a little bit more difficult. Let's say that maybe you just got a really bad phone call that you've got a family member who lives out of state and doesn't really look like they're going to make it, and they'd really like to see you, before they pass on. So you get this call. Is it a matter of you or your family's health? Well, technically no in this case. I mean, yes, someone's life is at risk, but they're not going to make it anyway. There's not really much you can do. I know that sounds heartless, but it doesn't really fit the criteria here. Is it a matter of your income? No, it's not a matter of your income. Not seeing this person isn't going to do anything about that. So in this case, the criteria doesn't really fit, but you always have to really take these things with a grain of salt. Any criteria that you're looking at may need to be modified for certain situations. If this person is really close to you, if you would regret this for the rest of your life, not seeing them off, so to speak, it actually may affect your health. You may have, mental health problems because of this. You may be depressed because you weren't able to see them in their last moments. So you need to be able to figure that out for yourself, of course, but this is a really difficult situation where I would say, in some cases, that situation may warrant using your emergency fund. I wouldn't say there's anything wrong with that, but it's really up to you. So the criteria shouldn't be used as an end-all, be-all solution. Always think about things from every perspective to see how they may affect you in the future. But the whole point here really is that the criteria should work for most cases. If you look at a few other simpler examples, the big sale that's going on at the store right now this weekend only is not an emergency. I'm sorry. It doesn't affect your family or your health, your family's health. It doesn't affect your income. It's not an emergency. If the new iPhone comes out, that's not an emergency. I'm sorry. Even if your phone is broken, I mean, my phone has been cracked and broken for quite a while here. It's not an emergency. I've had this phone for 2 years. It's working fine. Okay, so use discretion is my whole point. Emergencies are true emergencies. They should affect you or your family's health, and they should affect your ability to generate income in general. But always use your best judgment. But hey, if you made it this far in the video and found some sort of value in it, whether it be entertainment or education, be sure and smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Smashing that like button lets YouTube know that you enjoyed this content, and they use that data to help decide if this video should be pushed to more people, so it really does help this channel grow. Also, I post new videos about wealth building, money management, and personal finance every week, so be sure and subscribe down below for more content if you haven't already. But listen, when it comes to savings for the future, emergency funds or the like, are you sure you're saving enough money? Well, if you've never sat down and made a 10-year plan for your savings, I'd guess that you aren't saving nearly enough. So be sure and check out the video on the screen right now, because in that video, I show you a method for predicting your needed savings for your whole life, and chances are you aren't saving nearly enough. Thanks for watching.